Hi everyone, how are you? This is Monica here with the best interest of the parent. And we just recently brought in I don't know, maybe like 60 or 70 new people in the month of July. And I think this is my first time going live this month. Over the past few weeks, something always happened that prevented me from going live. Like we had a electrical storm one week and another week. I think this is like the fourth time I've attempted to do this live stream with Summer O'Brien, and something just keeps happening that makes us have to cancel. I don't remember what the reasons were. We did get stormed out one day. And then last week, 15 minutes before I was scheduled to go live, a mouse crawled across my bare foot while I was meditating. That was like literally one of the scariest things I've ever been through in my life. And today I got my jeans on. I got my work boots on. So nothing can touch me if something decides to go by me. I'm sort of protected, I guess. And I have my keys in my hand because if something happens and I have to bounce, I'm going to just close my computer out and leave. So don't take offense. Maybe I could get Summer to finish the episode if that's the case. But I'm a little nervous to be here. But there hasn't been a mouse visible since that incident last week. So this week we're actually doing this event. This is going to be really exciting because today we're going to be talking about how acting like Jon Snow can help reform the family court system. So if you're with me, just say something in the comments. I don't have anyone here yet, which is odd. Usually there's like 6 or 7 people by now, but you guys have probably been acclimated to me having to cancel at the last minute. But today, this episode is going to be super exciting. Let me put my keys down. Let me chill. Okay. Got my door unlocked, ready to go. I got my little to-go box packed up. Okay, someone is here watching. Yeah, it looks like Summer's here watching. That's great. So I got my little box packed up. If I have to leave, I could just take everything I need and go. And I got my shoes on. But I'm going to be bringing Summer in, but I just want to leave a few announcements here real quick. I'm going to be going live, not predictably anymore, starting in the month of August, which is like next month, because I'm being called to do healing sessions in small groups for parents who are struggling with family court injustice. And so that's going to be taking up my Tuesdays going forward. So I'll be giving details as those details come, but that's just what I'm being called to do right now. I will still be going live. It just won't be predictably every single Tuesday. It will be maybe on a Friday, maybe on a Wednesday. So I'll try to give you all as much notice as possible so that you could join me live. Otherwise, you could always go into the Facebook group and see what's happening. And if you're watching me from YouTube right now, if you hit the subscribe button, that will help other parents find my channel and get the help that they need. So a lot of parents, they can't afford coaching, they can't afford a course, and they depend on the free channel like YouTube, Facebook group to get the resources that they need so that they can get a little bit of a bolster in this ordeal. So we're going to be bringing in Summer right now. Let me just get the link for her so I can invite her in. Yeah, it's been a long time since I did a live. So let's see here. Let me send her the message. It's really hot in this office and I'm wearing jeans and combat boots. It's just my life. Okay. And I've also made it a point to not look at the floor, because if I'm not looking at the floor, then nothing can find me. So there could be a mouse underneath my foot right now, and I won't even know because I'm not looking. Let me send this to her. It's going to be a really great episode. You will not be disappointed. All right, so I just sent her the link, so she's going to get that, and she's going to come on and cover this exciting topic with me. And she promised she would dress up like a Game of Thrones character. So let's see if I'm the only one here looking like this. All right. Okay, so while we're waiting for Summer, why don't you put in the comments how your July has been? Have you been spending time with your kids? Have you had vacations with your kids? Have you been denied access to your kids? Anything of that nature? How has it been for you? camping, swimming, hiking. What have you been up to all summer? Let's see. All right, she is here. How are you? Oh, you look nice.
Hi. So do
You look
you. You
nice.
look like you're ready to get on the back of a horse.
Yeah, you kind of have an Arya look to you, or like kind of like Daenerys and Arya, like a
Okay.
dark, like a more gothic version of Daenerys.
Yeah, I'm a bit more of a darker soul.
Yeah, I don't know who I am. I'm just one of those. I hate this hairstyle. When I first saw this hairstyle in Game of Thrones, I was like, "Who the heck does their hair like that?"
Yeah.
But
yeah.
it's not hard to do.
I was just saying, I was in there. I got like braids throughout my hair, and
Yeah.
I was telling my fiance, I go, oh my god, it must have taken hours to do all this actress's hair, all the time. I was like, no, thank you.
I know. It doesn't
Messy
make me.
messy bun on top, good to go.
Yep. Yeah. My hair looked better last. My hair looked better last week when I had mascara running down my face from crying.
Oh, of course.
So yeah, I got my boots on though. See.
Okay, yeah. You're ready to take a run for it, huh?
Yeah, I'm down with REI. So, so got Sansa Stark happening here and hiker, person. So yeah, so we talked about a while ago about doing this topic. I think it was still cold weather when we talked about this. And you're a Game of Thrones fan, so I kind of flirted with this topic, like, oh, what if parents took on a role like what Jon Snow did when he united the wildlings with the Northerners to defeat the White Walkers? Could we do something like that? Can we do something like that with family court and possibly unite with the moms and dads who are, a lot of them are in a gender battle with each other. Like the dads think that moms always win. I mean, a judge can't possibly ever rule against a mother. This is like the narrative that I'm hearing from a lot of men in our community. Like, and when I tell a man my story, they either assume I am on crack and I beat my son, or it's not true, or they say, well, you're just an outlier. That never happens. You're the only woman in Connecticut who's ever lost her child. Like, so a man will typically like minimize what I went through, or tell me it didn't happen, or tell me I must have done something bad, like be on drugs. And not all men say this. This is just a percentage, obviously. And then with women, women will tell me that I'm selling out by supporting men. I don't care about the maternal bond. How could you ignore the fact that you carried your son for 9 months? You must not value your role in his life. You must not value women. So I actually get heat on both sides. Both men and women have come down hard on me for being very equal. And so when I first had my son taken in 2010, the only community that was available to support me was the Father's Rights Movement. So I can never come down on the Father's Rights Movement because they were there for me when I didn't have anybody. And I didn't meet the first female who's been through this until I was already 4.5 years into my battle. So because I thought this was only a male problem, I thought something was wrong with my case, and that it's going to be me and only men who've ever suffered like this. And so they were very supportive. It was wonderful. I had a good amount of online support from dads who've been raked through the coals. And then when I became a health coach just for women, I got a lot of heat from men for only working with women. So no matter what I do, if I only work with men, I get heat from women. If I only work with women, I get heat from men. And now that I support everybody, I get heat from everybody, Um,
Right. No, that's understandable. You know,
mhm,
Eric Carroll from Dad Talk Today?
mhm.
He kind of he has the same conflict where, you know, he has this wonderful show and this wonderful outlet to bring awareness and to bring news to public, and he gets the same heat where, you know, if he talks to a mom or if he talks to a woman, they're like, hey, this is a dad show and you should be talking to dads and men, and you know, so he gets a lot of heat that way. I did a brief, I mean, it had to be a 5-minute interview with him at a rally, and there were comments saying, you know, hey, why are you talking to a mom? And so, you know, that barrier, that sex barrier is definitely there. And it's, you know, you either get praise for doing what you do, or you get, like what you said, you get the odd looks, you get the mixed messages of, you know, you must have really done something bad, or you know, this is a dad's issue, you're in the minority, things like that. So I definitely understand, you know, how you're interpreting and what you're feeling and how you see it in your situation. It's real. It's very real.
Yeah, and so yeah, and I also hear from dads like, well, statistically, women only lose their children 17% of the time. Therefore, you don't matter. This is not a problem because it only happens 17% of the time. It's almost like if a certain drug kills, 5% of its consumers, it's not a problem because 95% didn't die.
Right.
If a seatbelt fails only 2% of the time, it's not a problem because only a few hundred people died. It's
You know, that's a great statistic, because also, you know, men statistically get rewarded custody of their kids 17% of the time. So why are the fathers only being rewarded custody when we're taking away from the other parent
yes.
at the same rate? So why do we see that one has to be taken to give to the other in
Yeah.
that scenario? I mean, that's right there should raise red flags.
Yeah, there's a belief that justice can only be obtained when someone else is getting hurt,
Mm-hmm,
when someone
mm-hmm,
else is suffering.
mm-hmm.
It's like as though justice and human rights is a finite resource, and once you divorce, there's only so many rights to go around, so you have to chop them up. But that's just not the case. We could still be whole and have a integral relationship,
Mm-hmm.
even if we're not married to somebody else.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
you know, so like your DNA doesn't get split in half because you're divorcing. And so unfortunately, and I think the reason this has been allowed to happen since the 70s with this whole like child goes with one parent, sees the other parent 4 days a month, is because the citizens, we're supporting it. We allow it. We actually endorse it. As a community, we endorse inequality. Even when we get screwed, the remedy is to screw the other parent so that this could be fixed. Someone has to get screwed somewhere so that things can be made right. And my belief is that if you don't want something, we can only get things when we want the same for our fellow neighbor. If
Oh,
we want
sure.
to if we want to be healthy and prosperous, we have to hope that our neighbor is the same, healthy and we can't hope that other people don't get it so that we can have it. So it's a ingrained belief, and it's actually our problem to solve. It's not the state's job to fix it when we're the ones that are supporting it. This is highly endorsed. This inequality is highly endorsed by moms and dads when they're being divorced.
Yeah, well, historically speaking, there always has to be an oppressed party in order for, certain government structures to maintain power. There always has to be an oppressed and an oppressor. And we see that now with race, right? There's a lot of talk about race and equality. And you can apply that to anything. You can apply that to men and women. You can apply that to, blue collar workers and white collar workers, cats and dogs. There's always an oppressed party that has to be present, or like you said, if there was no one to oppress and there was nothing to oppress, what would we have? We'd have equality.
And where's the revenue in that?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Like,
there's no money in that.
yeah, because like every business exists to solve a problem, right? I mean, an electric company exists because people don't want to freaking hand wash their dishes, you know? Like they don't want to pump water for themselves. They don't want to, I mean, every business, I believe, is there to solve a problem, or to make something better, make something more comfortable. So if something's already intact and whole, then there's no money to be made to fix that whole thing, that thing that's already whole.
Right.
So if your relationship with your child is intact, just even after you romantically part ways with another person, there's no money to be made because there's nothing to fix. There's no wholeness to be had because you're already whole.
And you almost have to hide that from the state. You almost have to hide that relationship with your ex-spouse, with your child from the state actors, because you feel like they're going to come after you, or something's going to happen where next thing you know, involuntarily you're going to be thrown into the system and just have to go through that. Like they're going to force you. That's, you know, that's very similar to what happened in my divorce case. Is we had a non-contested divorce. We agreed on everything ahead of time. We had very cheap family lawyers, you know, nothing fancy, just to draw up the paperwork. Everything was agreed upon, but we got to court, and between the two lawyers, they started making it an adversarial issue. And, you know, we're sitting there like, well, no, we're okay. We're good. You know, we both love our kids. They both love us. We have this all worked out. Leave us alone, type of thing. And it actually took it. They tried to prolong my divorce, and they actually prolonged it by only 3 months. When we both of us, me and my ex, had to sit there and say, "Hey, no more. We're done. We want to date. We're done. Sign it. Let's go."
Wow.
And so they try to like pull us in to that struggle.
Yeah, it's like an ego metal detector. They're just looking for that sensitive trigger point. Like,
right.
Like I had a judge once talk my ex out of quote unquote giving me more summer vacation. Like she's like, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And it's I've seen that. I've seen people in power, supposedly in power. These people really aren't in power, but we give them power because we give them a retainer. We give them, you know, whatever, permission to evaluate our family. But I've seen the people in power try to say to my ex, like, "Are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure, you know, right now your son is used to the schedule? You know, are you sure you want to abruptly change his schedule?" And of course, my ex is like, "Oh God, I don't know," you know, and it prolongs things. Yeah, and so there's something interesting I found with the Game of Thrones thing. I was thinking about this right before I came live. The people in King's Landing, I hope you guys watching are familiar with Game of Thrones, but the people in King's Landing, every time they were told that there were White Walkers, they said, "Oh, you know, I'm sure you'll do fine with those goblins behind the wall, you know, beyond the wall." Like they just like dismissed that there was a problem. And you know, you see a lot of, you know, it's almost like when you try to bring issues to the legislature that there's a problem in the judiciary, it's like, well, if the parents could just get along and deal with their issues, the judge wouldn't have to do these bad things. There's just that gaslighting, dismissiveness, just kicking the can behaviors. And I thought about how King's Landing responded to the White Walker invasion, how they were just very dismissive about it.
Oh, I mean, right up into the point, again, you know, a little fangirl in here, when Jaime Lannister is trying to like basically shaking his sister, Cersei, saying, "Hey, wake up, because this is real and it's happening, and I have to go like do something about it. You can stay here if you want." And like you know, pull the wool over your eyes and hide in your room and pretend it's not happening. But, you know, there's a point where you acknowledge reality. You have to acknowledge the reality of it. And, you know, at least with the state representatives here in New York that we meet with, they acknowledge it. Everyone we talk to is very agreeable. They love our data. They love the research. They acknowledge the fatherless home issues. They see the stats, and they take it and they do a Cersei, and they go back into their castle and they shut the door and say, hey, I'm going to drink wine and pretend it's not happening. Let it work itself out. So it's really tough to take those steps when you literally have politicians sitting there and acknowledging it, but flat out dismissing it. You know, and that's where I think men and women can come together on a better united front, to persuade and pressure them more that it's not just a man's issue or a woman's issue.
Yeah, and imagine a time where, and most of the people in my group, I don't, you know, I filter the people that come into my group. I say, are you, you know, supportive of both parents' rights? And they have to say yes to get into the group. I've had to say, you know, I've had to kick people out of the group for saying, you know, changing their mind or whatever, you know, because I need some sort of cohesiveness in the group to prevent, you know, nasty exchanges. But I get a lot of hate mail, like so much hate mail, like how, you know, you're perpetuating the problem, you know. But interestingly, I do get messages saying, you sound angry, you sound bitter, you're mad that you were on the receiving end. Somebody has to lose, and you're just mad because you were the loser. So like what a lot of legislators will say is, well, somebody has to lose in court. Like there has to be a loser, and that's actually not the case, because you're not fighting over a piece of property. And I mean, there's absolutely no reason.
It's not a torts case. Like,
yeah, that's,
you know, like,
that's a great point.
Like civil litigation. This is people. These are human lives.
That's a really, really, really great. So she said, guys, if you're watching, she said this isn't a tort. Did you say torts with a plural? Torts?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know torts was plural.
Yep. TORTS. Tort.
Okay.
Torts.
Yeah, this isn't a torts case. And so one thing I've always said to legislators, I said, the only way this problem will ever go away is if we remove standing for one party to sue the other party for sole custody. We have to forget about the judge even determining best interest, because a lot of people are like, oh, we need to reform it and teach the judge that the best interest is this. I don't even want parents to even get to a point where they're asking for a best interest. Like, I want to remove the authority for any parent to even ask for that at all. Because I'm married right now. I'm legally married. I can't ask the state to limit my husband's access to our daughters. I have no standing. There's no way I could do that. If we're divorcing, I do have standing to ask for that. So I don't think standing should be granted just because you're dissolving a romantic relationship. So that's where the problem is that we give people authority to even ask for these things. And so if men and women could come together, because that's a problem for both men and women, because women are harmed in family court just like men are. Even if they ultimately win the kids, they're still being harmed because they're in that stressful, catastrophic place for years where they're spending all their money and their resources. So even if you win, you walk away with a victory, you're still losing because you lose your assets, your health, your dignity. Oftentimes you have to lie and cheat and steal to get what you want. And you throw away like a big piece of your younger years, your 30s and 40s, and you destroy a lot of things to get that thing at the end. So everybody really does lose, you know. And
no, you really do. You really do. And a lot of times too, what we see here in New York is a lot of lazy, fast-paced divorce cases in Supreme Court. So if there's a hiccup in Supreme Court when you're initially getting your divorce, they'll just brush over it and say, figure it out in family court. Where Supreme Court is the first line of defense.
So in New York, for those of you watching, Supreme Court is the lower court in New York.
Yeah, sorry.
Right?
Yeah, New York is set up really weird. It's the court above like your town, city, county courts. It's where it's the only place you can go and get a divorce in
Wow.
New York, is in Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And they have concurrent jurisdiction with family court. So
Wow.
if you go get a divorce in Supreme Court, you know, and there's a problem after that, after your judgment, you can go to family court through that judgment already. It's like an automatic, it's like a one-way ticket.
Hmm.
And so what
Yeah,
we're
it's like a
seeing
valve.
is people are fighting through divorce, and they're not coming up with parenting plans, and they're not coming up with custody agreements ahead of time. So it's bogging down the Supreme Court. They're getting fed up with it, saying, well, this is what we're going to do, you know, the every other weekend, or the, you know, 2 dinner nights a week, or for whatever parent. And then they stamp it. And then these parents 6 months later are right back in family court
Yeah.
after going through
Yeah.
a divorce.
It's not, yeah, it's never workable. We were back in court in 4 months, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. My fiance's case, we had a custody order, went to trial within 6 months. She was petitioning the court again.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, this should not be allowed, man, woman, either way. This should not be allowed to be used like a McDonald's drive-through.
Yeah. And again, I can't go to court if my neighbor's playing his music too loud, I can't go to court.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of things that we don't like about the world that we can't go to court over. And so if your child wants to play soccer and your ex says no, then freaking too bad. You either get your child into soccer and tell the coach they're going to miss half the freaking practices, or you just deal with it, or put them in a summer thing. People could figure out soccer on their own without involving the government. Because like the people contact, oh my God, I got to go to court. But most of the time, yes, it does suck to manage these things on your own, especially when you're working with a narcissist. But most parents have more power than they think. I mean, parents could do a lot of things. There's parents who could deal with chemotherapy with their child, or handicapped children, or a dying relative moving into the house, or a natural disaster, or war, or coronavirus. Like, parents could deal with a lot of chaos with their kids. We're equipped to manage craziness with our kids.
Yeah, but for some reason, divorced couples, it like turns off. They become dominant parents, and they have no idea what they're doing.
And if you guys can't figure out a dentist, then suddenly the parent has to go to court. But I've always said, like, why don't you guys just take? Well, I've said this to parents. Why don't you just forget about court? You take the child to the dentist when you feel like you need to, and then your ex could take your child. If your kid gets too many dental appointments, so what? What are you out $100 in cleaning fees because your insurance won't cover it? Like, most of the time, even though it does suck, and that's the thing, parents want like a non-sucky arrangement with their ex, and you're not going to have that. You're always going to have it's always going to be crappy, but it was crappy already when you were married. So what's funny is, this is a little bit off topic, but I'm really tired, and I think this is part of the narrative of why we need best interest. Divorce, and this is another reason why they force divorced parents to pay for college and not married parents. They say children of divorce are so disadvantaged, and they struggle, they have issues, their parents are divorced, they're going to grow up this, and so that's why the government has to get involved. But like, I actually would like to say that a lot of times divorce gives kids more opportunities. There's right now, I have a husband, you know, there's things that I won't do with my girls because he said no, or whatever. He won't do things with them because I say no. Like, I won't let him feed them food coloring, you know. If we were to divorce, he could feed them whatever he wants without my permission. So it actually I think it gives parents freedom in some ways, and more, it's just, I think divorce gives kids more opportunities. In some cases, of course, it limits opportunities here, but it could give more opportunities somewhere else. Horror movies, you know, oh, well, I'm going to let you watch rated R because I don't have to consult with the other parent. So I think that this narrative of kids are so disadvantaged because of a divorce, that's part of the industry. That's what they want the parents to believe, so that the parents can spend money. You know,
absolutely.
It's like the funeral director.
You can't have it both ways either in society. So we praise single mothers. There's programs and groups and funding and social programs and, you know, social acceptance and cultural norms for single motherhood, and how wonderful they are and how hard they work and getting through all the struggles. But yeah, like you said, you turn around and say, oh, these kids are at such a disadvantage. Well, which is it? Are they disadvantaged because they have a single parent? Or are they like empowered and overcome like adversity because they were raised by a strong, independent parent? Which one is it?
That's
I
so
lost
funny.
track. I lost track years ago because either way, I think if a parent truly loves their kid, which I think 98% of us do, while the children are with us, we're going to provide them with what's best for them. And, like you said, that may be, if we think it's watching rated R movies, then so be it. If you want to eat a sucker for dinner, so be it. I mean, who's to say like that's not allowed because we're divorced or we're not together anymore? At the end of the day, if the kids are happy and you still teaching them boundaries and respect and, values and things like that, that's the best you can hope for.
Yeah, totally. And like I said, I understand, like, a lot of parents are jaded because, if you're a mom and you're with your children 4 days a month because your nasty ex lied and the judge that you have always favors men. There are judges who will always favor men no matter what.
Sure.
And see, this is the thing. I think there's two truths. I think that there are judges who will give kids to an abusive father and claim parental alienation to justify that. We're going to put the kids in the abusive home because the mom's alienating. Like, I know for a fact that happens 100%. So all of you who are watching who hate me right now and unsubscribing to me, I know that happens. I've seen it happen with my eyes. I was an ADA advocate in the system for a while, and I watched it happen. I have transcripts of that happening in other cases. And so that is true. But what's also true is that women could go in and claim domestic violence and get the kids taken from dad. That's how I lost access to my father when I was a kid. So that can be true too. It's not either or. Both things can be true. You could absolutely have, what is there? How many divorced families are there out there? Like, I don't know, 11 million couples that are divorced right now. So 5.5 million of those couples could have one truth and so why can't both things be true? Parents always say that because it happened to me, therefore it's 100% universal, and when the other gender sucks because of it. Like, women suck because they claim alienation.
That's narrow thinking.
They just want the child support, and all women are crap. And then women will say men suck. They don't, patriarchal judges love men and they want to destroy the mother-child bond. But both of those things are true. There are judges who don't give a crap about the mother-child bond, and there's judges that don't care about, the value of a father. And so, can we just get off of that shit already? Okay, fine. You're both right. So what do we do now? Do we just complain on Facebook about how bad the other gender is? Or do we turn against the common enemy, which is what the White Walker, which is what happened with the wildlings and the people in Winterfell, right? And that worked. And they didn't like each other still, remember when they all united in Winterfell, like they were giving dirty looks to each other. But ultimately they did destroy the White Walkers, and the White Walkers in our situation, in my opinion, is the family court system. They're mowing down everybody. You think the White Walkers cared if you were part of King's Landing or Winterfell or whatever, or Wildling? The White Walkers just wanted flesh, and also we've seen this in history with the civil rights movement and the women's suffrage movement. We had, in the beginning in 1848, when women were coming together saying that we want to vote, there was a lot of support from the Black community because they were outcasted as well. They wanted equal rights as well. So their common enemy was the predominantly male white government. And so in the 1860s, when the 15th Amendment passed, the Black man was granted the right to vote, and everybody else was left, in the dust. And what happened in 1870 was that the women's suffrage movement split, and half of them became really racist because Black men got the right to vote. And so, in my opinion, as a result, that's why it took another 50 years for women to get the right to vote, because the movement was splintered. So what if in 1870 or 1860s, when Black men got the right to vote, what if the women said, oh my gosh, this is great. This is movement in the right direction. It used to be that none of us got the right to vote, and now some of us get to vote. Like, why can't someone else's gain be our gain as well? So if men are getting access to their kids more, why is that a loss to women?
Right. Right. Yeah.
Um,
It shouldn't be. I promote that a lot here in New York. As a woman, from personal experience, I promote the fact, listen, it is a godsend when the father has close to equal access to their child. Okay. I want to go out and work. I want to go back to school. I want to pick up overtime. I want to go on vacations. I want to date. I want to have a sex life. I want to meet friends and or I just want to sit alone in my house for a day.
watch
Okay.
Game of Thrones.
And watch Game of Thrones and watch Jon Snow and Robb Stark, I mean, this is without that equal access, I'm very limited as a woman. You want to talk about, wage ceilings and, promotions and education levels, and it all relates back to our responsibilities at home. Okay. The court system does a wonderful job, like I said earlier, empowering us, being these strong, independent, fierce beings, but yet still shackling us to the stove because now we're responsible for 80% of the child rearing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you have to go on welfare. Like, how?
Yeah.
You have to. How could you not?
You have to get food stamps, and you have to get Section 8 housing. So we're going to pick where you live now too.
Yeah.
And by the way, you can't have a dog, so you can't have a family pet anymore. And your kids have to go to this school.
Yeah, and then your kids, if they're opposite sex, they have to sleep in separate rooms.
Yep.
And
well,
like
in New York, we don't have that. Siblings can share a room. It's at the discretion once they become teenagers. But step siblings or non-biological related, siblings can't share a room if of a different sex. But you have to have a 3-bedroom if you have 2 kids, and all while there's a perfectly capable, able, willing being with you in this who can help really maintain the family without the government's paycheck. That's the help I want. I want the help from the other parent. I don't want the government's help or the state's help.
Yeah, and I don't know the statistics. I don't research these things, but are dads more likely to be current in child support if they have access to their kids?
That's a good question. People, if they wanted to know more about those stats, I would look at sharedparenting.org through the National Parents Organization. They have just a huge library of resources and research. I do know that I think it was 2018, fathers that were payees to child support did pay the majority of what was owed throughout the country of their child support. So, the narrative of deadbeat dad is also starting to kind of corrode a little bit because fathers, if that's all they have with men, it's pride, finances, in what's the word I'm looking for? Lineage, like family lineage. Those things are like top importance to them. So if they can't interact with their children every day, or they can't influence them on a daily basis, they're gonna pay. They're gonna send the money.
Yeah. And also you could find there's deadbeat dads inside marriages too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's deadbeat moms. It's like there's. And again, these terms are designed to. Of course, there's going to be deadbeat dads, like, no matter what. The whole system got fixed. We're always going to have deadbeat dads, but and deadbeat moms. But I think these terms is just part of the marketing of divorce. Now you have to hire a lawyer and get a GAL, and there's a GAL. The GAL in Game of Thrones is. Well, I don't want to take it from you, but you said Littlefinger.
Well, and he's actually one of my favorite characters in Game of Thrones. I don't know if it's just the actor's my favorite character or not, or the character. I don't know, because he's slimy, but he's intelligent, and I give credit to intelligence. attorneys are intelligent. They're intelligent people. Judges are smart people. You know, and I never want to discredit their lack of knowledge or intelligence. It's just how they use it. It's how ethical they are, their moral compass.
Yes.
You know, so you can be the smartest person in the room, but if you're an unethical person, it's going to be used as a weapon, and it's, you know, it's not going to be a good time. So that reminds me a lot of Littlefinger, right? I mean, he potential. He had quite the ambition. And in terms of like a attorney for the child, which we call him here in New York, you know, that's what he reminded me of, because as the attorney for the child, they're like this third party in the circle, and they're watching, and they're seeing everything going down like a play, and they know what the father is saying and their attorney is saying, and they know what the mom and her attorney is saying, and they know how the judge is thinking, because they work here in New York. Attorneys for the children work for certain judges in terms, so they're with the same judge. God. Yeah.
That's really freaky. What you're doing is you're mixing two different bodies of government. You're taking a judicial agent, and then, you know, the function of the GAL. I got this from Ron and Sherry Palmer. The function of the GAL is really an executive function, because they're trying to implement policy, and the policy is best interest of the child. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm butchering how they describe it, but they describe it so brilliantly. It's so mind blowing when you research their stuff. They're like scholars, you know, they're just so good. I mentioned them to you before. But what they both say about the GAL and like the function of the court to determine best interest is it's an executive function, kind of like DCF. DCF is an executive, you know, CPS, DCF. They're part of the executive branch of government. So their job is to not create policy, but to manage policy. What does the executive government do? They don't make the laws, they execute.
I think they oversee. They oversee. Implementation of policy.
Right. And so when you have a GAL in a family, mm-hmm. GAL determines best interests by investigating and researching and interviewing people and picking through medical records. And then that best interest, whatever that standard is for the Jones family, because it's all different. The standard is different in each home. And we've talked about this, how it's not a standard. That's a misnomer. It can't be a standard if it changes from family to family. It's impossible. Mm-hmm. Right. Literally, it's not a standard. It's the exact opposite. And so if we have a person who works with a judge implementing an executive function, or, you know, overseeing an executive function, you're mixing up you're not balancing the powers of government. They explain it much better.
Yeah, there's a huge lack of checks and balances, and I want to get to I want to talk about New York State's Blue Ribbon Commission here in a minute. I'll just finish up.
That sounds terrible.
I'll just finish up Littlefinger, because he's so slimy, but I love him. So again, he's watching. He knows all the actors. He knows all the plays, and he's watching and he's anticipating, and he sits back, and he has the power. Just like with Sansa or with Lady Winterfell, or anyone who he came in contact with who he was going to use as like a power play, he had the power to lift those people up at any given moment. But yet, because he was unethical, he tried to reduce that to give the power to himself. And that reminds me a lot of attorneys for the child, because they have literally, they could sit there in every case that is right and say, hey, I really think this child would be best served if he was spending equal times with each parent. But they don't say that.
Right.
They don't. They never come back with that solution. Never. And it's always just this power play, because they need a job. They need a paycheck. Here in New York, it's by county. So they get paid from the county if they're appointed to a case. And again, they're appointed to terms for each judge, to the point where I had an attorney friend say, oh, if you're going back to, you know, Judge so-and-so, don't worry, because this person's off his calendar for the next 6 months, but then she'll be back. So it's like, why are we playing like court roulette, where, you know, depending on what time of year it is, you may get certain people that, like you say, function in just a different arena than what they're supposed to be doing. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I think attorneys for the child, Littlefinger represents them very well. He does a great job at sneaky, conniving, lying, power hungry, manipulative people. And that's my honest
Yeah.
opinion about attorneys for the child.
Yeah. And as a business owner, you know, about 30% of your overhead in the first few years anyway could easily go to advertising and marketing. And then another chunk of your overhead is liability insurance. You know, for example, I have a massage therapy license, and I pay a big chunk of money for a $2 million liability policy in case I, like, I don't know,
Wow.
hurt someone. And attorneys, GALs in my state don't have any liability. They're fully immune. I think it's probably true in most states. They can't be sued for misconduct. And so when you don't have any liability, you don't have to pay malpractice insurance as a GAL. And then also you don't have to do any marketing. You don't have to do any advertising because all of your assignments are through a judge. So you just get to keep so much of your money that you're billing the family. And you're also not doing legal work. You're not researching case law. You're not doing any legal work when you're a GAL. And I don't think attorneys for minor children do a lot of legal work. They're not researching case law, are they?
No. And that's the sad part, because like doctors, law is a practice. And if you spend a couple of years not researching, not staying up on case law, not staying up on, the CLEs in your coursework, you're going to be behind the 8 ball of the current trends and the current social changes that affect law. And that's what these people are. I mean, we had this one lady, she's like 75 years old, and she's sitting there knitting in court, waiting for her case to be heard. And I go, I bet you she hasn't looked at Westlaw in 2 years.
Yeah, and there's something else. There's no reason for these people to even research case law because you can't build precedent on best interest of the child. You can't build any precedent. I have a former client who had a massive victory in court last week. Massive, huge. And I was like, dude, I want to see your decision because I want to know what law the judge, because I told the parent, I was like, don't ask for a best interest determination, say that you don't want that. And she's like, okay, and I want to find out how, what law the judge relied on. And the judge relied on best interest. And so I'm like, well, I can't use this case for anybody because that was just the opinion of the judge that day. Right. You can't build a precedent. And so other parents in Connecticut are like, can I have that case? Can I have that case? I'm like, well, you can, but it's all best interest. Like you can't, as a parent, you can't say, well, in that case, the judge did that because there's no precedent built, because you can't build precedent on best interest. And that's so frustrating. And so how can family law is not an art. It's not law. it's not, there's no continuing application.
It's law for when law's broken. Getting a divorce is not breaking the law. Okay.
Yeah.
Wanting to share your children is not breaking the law. Your kid being upset with you saying, I don't want to see you anymore, is not breaking the law. Conflict between two adults is not breaking the law. So that's where, we're saying with shared parenting, if it was 50-50 or close to 50-50, whatever the parents can do at the beginning stages of separation, that would eliminate the need for best interest. Because if families came back after that, there'd have to be a law broken.
Right. And then they could call the police and have criminal charges pressed if there was
a problem. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at with shared parenting, is if it's 50-50 from the start and something horrible happens, then we can talk about going into family court and changing the ruling based off that, because then it would be a quote unquote a punishment also to whatever parent is guilty of neglect or whatever the case may be. But when we start at that point, when we start at someone's guilty or someone's wrong or someone broke some invisible code of parenting right from the get-go, that's not healthy for anybody. It doesn't help children.
Yeah, and there's no injured party in the very beginning.
No.
Having your feelings hurt, that doesn't make you an injured party. There's no justiciable, it's called justiciable controversy. I think that's what it's called. And so the court almost has to create one. The court has to create an injured party so that when you come back in 6 months, you have something to fight about.
Right. Well, it's no coincidence that we see an increase of family offense petitions after the initial child custody petition.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's huge. It's huge. They almost go hand in hand here in New York.
Yeah.
I can almost pinpoint. I could talk to a guy or a woman, just any of them. I have this great woman I'm talking to here in Amy. She's in your situation, Monica. Just torn to pieces about that. Had a family offense petition against her. She's like 5'4", and she has a son, like a 17-year-old son who's like 200 pounds. And in the report said she was body slammed him and choked him. I go, now I don't know about you, but I have a son too, 17, and he's like over 6 foot, 200 pounds. And if I tried body slamming him or choking him, I don't think that's going to work out too well for me. But same thing. Family court petition was filed. Literally a couple weeks after, family offense petition filed. It goes hand in hand here in New York. You can almost call it when it's going to happen in some cases. And I warn parents, hey, listen, I know you're heated. I know you're emotional. I know you're very upset when they get the initial petition. It's like, but you need to literally disappear for like a month, because if you don't, you're going to get a family offense petition against you for harassment. I had one client here in New York who he made some social media posts, and the judge in his decision said that was enough to meet the harassment in the second degree elements.
Wow.
It's used very heavily here.
Yeah. And the thing is, and again, parents want this. We hate our exes so much that we want this. And this is bad policy, and it's harmful for everybody. And, and this is just something a friendly jab. I'm kind of an asshole, but in a very nice way. But like, and I do this, and I do this all the time, but I try to be very compassionate about it, because I do have compassion, but parents who complain about, what's that thing they ask for? Oh, it's 50-50 is bad for my child. That's what parents will say, right? I'm not going to name a specific gender who says this. Okay. It's predominantly with one gender we hear it from. And they say 50-50 is bad. I was like, you know what? You could fix that in 2 seconds. Call up your ex right now and volunteer to be the 4-day-a-month parent. And then you could fix the problem right away without any issue, And so what they really mean is 50-50 is bad for my ex. That's what they're really saying. Like, finish the sentence.
Yeah. A little subconscious, ego coming through once in a while.
And I'll say something like, really, that's weird. 50-50 is bad for your child. Well, the court won't let you be the 4-day-a-month parent. Clearly you must have asked for that if it's so bad. Yeah. And then I'll say stuff like,
we could change it.
Yeah. I'm like, man, if I felt that way, I would call my ex and volunteer to be the 4-day-a-month parent, which I am. But another thing parents will say is like, they'll say stuff like, I can't remember the other thing, but I try to educate people. I don't know. I lost the other thing. There's another thing that I always say to people, but so yeah, I mean, again, we had a big battle during the women's suffrage movement, with the women's suffrage movement splitting and half of them becoming very racist when the Black man was granted the right to vote in the 15th Amendment. And, there was this lady, Frances Willard. This came from an NPR show that I listened to, and it was fascinating. So I'll share that in the show notes here if I could find it. But she started when Black men were granted the right to vote in the 1860s. She started saying Black men were abusive. They raped women. They're predatorial. They're alcoholics. They can't read. Suddenly she became really racist because she was pissed off that they got to vote and she didn't. So her issue should have been more towards, well, who's repressing her right to vote? Is it the Black man that's doing it? Because that's another thing. No, there's not a single father that is preventing me from being a mother to my son. It's the government that's doing this.
Right.
So why would I hate fathers when they're not the ones who did this to me? It's the government. Just because my ex asked for the government to do what they did doesn't mean that fathers are bad for kids, you know. And yes, maybe the judge was patriarchal, and maybe they are working with the fathers' rights movement or the fatherhood initiative. Maybe they're getting funding because there's a lot of like conspiracy, you know, and that's probably true, by the way. There probably is money funneled somewhere, but who cares? We get women's groups that are getting money funneled to them as well, you know. But like it's you know, with men who don't like women, you know, who come down on me for being female. I'm like, well, there's not a single mother that did this to you. It's your judge that did this to you at our request, because we're asking for this. We're asking the judge's opinion. We're literally saying, what do you think? Do you think I should still be a parent? You know, we need to be petitioning judges not to be given equal custody, but to keep equal custody, because we already have equal custody when our kids are born. So I always tell parents, like, this isn't legal advice, you know. I say, consider saying, instead of asking for something, ask to keep it. Just put the word keep, you know, insert keep. Make sure it's in there 50 times in all your motions, or maintain or retain or preserve, or, you know, words that imply that you already have this thing and you don't want them to take it away. But this lady, Frances Willard, was just nasty toward Black people. And then like Ida B. Wells, she kind of represented like the more peacemaker part of it. But her and Frances Willard, two women who are very pro women's suffrage, were at odds with each other, and it split the movement. And again, like I said, it stalled their progress for 50 years. And look where we're at. We're 50 years behind in the times as moms and dads, and we're blaming the opposite sex. And we see this in legislative buildings when a shared parenting law gets put on the table. We'll get heat from the opposition, and it's a certain gender that doesn't want it, and it's unfortunate, you know. So look at history. Maybe that's why we're not getting any movement, because we're repeating history.
Oh yeah. So. Well, that, and like I said, there always seems to be someone getting oppressed.
Yeah.
And you know, if you ask me, like, I rather put that on like something non-tangible. Like, can we oppress like the barns? I mean, why does it have to be? Why is it always people?
Yeah.
You know, why can't it be like the cool thing to like not buy Cadillacs anymore because they're, you know, oppressive? Just because in terms of, you know, male and female, and again, like I actually, I'm sure I'll get some heat from this, but I can't stand the current fembot movement of our society right now. You know, like I said, it's this whole I want it all, but I need to be provided for kind of narrative that I think if we start breaking down those walls of what we really want, we can start making strides in being unified with our counterparts, which are our men.
Yeah, that's so massive. Oh my God. I would love to do a whole show just on that. That's so, I'm gonna take this clip.
You know, it's just, there's so much that hurts us going forward, including current family law structure. It hurts women, it hurts mothers. And then when we're hurt, the fathers are hurt. And when the fathers are hurt, the children are hurt. And it goes round and round. And like you said, we're just playing the blame game and we're wasting time. You know, our kids grow up despite us. They're gone, off and growing.
Yeah. And I remember what the other asshole comment I made is on Facebook. I'll just say stuff like, oh, well, you know, this kind of policy, you're actually kind of signing yourself up to be an every other weekend grandmother if you have a son.
Yeah.
You know, so I have 3 boys, but men should not get equal custody. It's like, oh, whoops. In 20 years, I'm going to barely see my grandchildren. Whoops, sorry. That was an unintended consequence. I mean, just, no, I want my son to not suffer the way I did with him. You know, absolutely. I want to be able to see my grandkids.
My son will be 18 in 2 weeks, give or take. The 29th of this month, he'll be 18. He just graduated high school. And I know I was texting you a couple weeks ago about this huge breakthrough with my ex. So in the meantime, my son decided to go live with his dad on a full-time basis. I said, great. I mean, I'm struggling with it internally, but he won't know that.
Unless he watches the
So,
show.
you know, right.
Mom,
So
why are you
I'm
dressed like
losing,
that?
I'm losing a child,
Mhm.
voluntarily. I'm not gonna fight it. He's a young man. He can go and make his own decisions. He can go stay with his father. I raised him for the past 7 years. Well, really 18. But you know, and I'm letting it happen and I'm letting it go. Because that's what's healthy. That's what's normal. Um, you know, here in New York, I could fight for his custody until he's 21.
Oh my God. They're just expanding they're expanding the customer base
And
by doing that.
well, and child support. Child support is paid out to 21.
That is unbelievable.
So
Ah,
unless he gets emancipated, you know, I mean,
he
I
has
can
to go get someone pregnant.
yeah, yeah. So, you know, and that's not even in the emancipation law. So, military, married, working full time out of the house, providing for himself. So, getting someone pregnant is not even in there. So, he could technically get someone pregnant and, you know, still be paying child support on him while he's supporting his kid.
So
You
you're
can't
finally
make this stuff up.
So dad could be paying you child support for him, and then it would just get funneled through him like urine and go right to his baby.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh my! And so one thing that I have, like, female clients, you know, who, like, I have an abdominal therapy practice as well, and I'll get every once in a while I'll get a female client who's in her 50s who's like, my 20-year-old son just got someone pregnant, and I'm terrified that I'll never see this baby. That's sad, right? Like,
Yeah.
why should, and it's because he's not married. It's like, why should marital status fucking matter, right?
Yeah.
Stanley versus Illinois, I don't know if you're familiar with that case. I love that case. Says that unmarried men cannot be treated differently than married women in
Oh,
custody
okay.
cases. It's a
Very nice. Very good.
beautiful case. It's such a
Very
good case. And it's just another one of the cases out there. There's so many cases that say that marital status is not tied to parental rights.
Mhm.
I mean, there's so many cases, and Ron and Sherry Palmer are the ones who created that. Guys, if you guys want a $35 book, it's the best book you'll ever have in your life. The copy I have is so beat up and written in, and coffee spilled on it and baby food on it. It's such a good book. It's called Not in the Child's Best Interest by Ron and Sherry Palmer. It's on Amazon, $35. And it is brilliant. I mean, you know, and so when we could stop hating other people for wanting the same shit that we have, then it conserves a lot of energy. I stopped hating my ex September 26, 2011. And there's a story, I put it on my podcast, episode 3, where, and this is another story of me running out of a building screaming at someone with no bra and no shoes on. So, except for, and I wasn't running away from a mouse, but I chased after my ex in a car on September 26, 2011. I chased after him. I started screaming at him, ran down the street because he took my son away from me or some crap. I don't know. And as I had to walk home, because that's the thing, cars will go faster than you could run, especially when you have no shoes on.
Yeah.
I had to walk home uphill. And during that walk home, it was probably like a half a mile because I ran, you know. And I decided on that walk home that I was going to stop hating my ex. And it'll be 10 years this September. And once you choose to stop hating someone, you're not going to go back. You're not going to start hating them again later, because transformation is a one-way valve. You know, it only goes in one way. And when you stop hating someone, when you stop hating your crappy ex, and that's what's so funny. My trolls are like, "Oh, you hate your ex so much." I'm like, "No, I don't." Because they think that my activism is all about me hating my ex. And that's another thing. Judges will say that me being this way is just me trying to do a dig at my ex, which is really stupid.
That's a lot of effort just to annoy
I hate you so much. I'm going to change my entire identity for 10 years because of you.
Right.
And do shows, do podcasts and freaking interviews. But no, when you stop hating someone, you just have all this energy. It's like someone just gave you like literally gave you like bone marrow with, you know, sunshine in it or something. It's just, you just feel so good.
I get it. I never hated my ex. But there was a lot of resentment. And like I said about my son graduating, you know, a couple weeks ago, I know I had to cancel once because I was so in emotional turmoil in a good way. because my ex, we were dropping my son off. It was like a day after graduation, and he pulled me aside. My son was in the car, and he looked at me and he says, "Thank you for raising him, and thank you for getting him through this." And I was
Yeah.
like, okay.
Yeah.
And he's like, I had a little, and then, he tried to step back a little bit. He's like, well, I had a little bit to do with it. I'm like, no. I'm like, I'll take it. I was like, thank you. And it was just, I was so worried about not getting that acknowledgement as a parent, that it was preventing me from, moving on with a couple things. So that was moved out of the way. And like you said, this energy, I mean, I just submitted a children's book, just today. I wrote it in a week. The nonprofit is going great, and I'm just working, and I have all this energy because, you let go of that baggage. And
Yeah. I want to type in all your details. And I know you have a workshop coming up as well.
mm-hmm.
So I want all the details of all those things, and I'll make sure that it's in the show notes, but I'll put it in the comments too.
Yeah. So
Is your children's book available right
it's
now?
not. I'm just submitting it now to publishers, and if I don't get any, hits, then I'll probably self-publish. But it's, it's about a boy. It's going to be dedicated to my stepson. About a boy divorced, having two homes, and how awesome it is to have two beds and two this and two that. And it also teaches there's some like a glossary of terms in the back, kid friendly terms like divorce, adjustment, responsibility. And it takes you through a story about his two different homes. One's in the city, one's in the country. And,
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was, it kind of clicked with me because he's struggling with that. So I decided to put it on paper, and hopefully it'll get picked up by someone.
Do you need an illustrator?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I got connections, yo. I
Shoot
published
me
a
some
book.
info on that.
Yeah, I published a book like 5 years ago. It's on Amazon. It's called Broken System, Broken Heart.
Okay.
If anyone wants a free copy of my book, you could download it right away without paying Amazon. But you can also get the paperback on Amazon. So if you do you have the we're going to go through the questions as well. If Summer has time, I don't want to take up any extra.
No, I'm free. Kids are quiet, so
okay,
I'm
cool.
going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and when your book comes out, I'll start plugging that in as well. I'll review it. So on Amazon, if you have an editorial review, it's like good for your sales. So I'll write an editorial review. I know how to do all that stuff. It's
okay.
Fun. Yeah. What's the workshop? I think that's coming up like Saturday or Thursday or something.
So we have a couple things in motion. So New York Families for Tomorrow, our nonprofit, you can find us on Facebook. We're going to have continual workshops for pro se defendants in the family court system, organizational workshops, things just to kind of get your bearings about a case if you're pro se. The one Thursday, there's still some room in there, of course. There's a little Google form to fill out, just so I can gather some information. It's court presentation part 1. And it's going to go over the basics. It is right now mostly for New York residents, just because the court structure is so different. But it goes over terms, vocabulary, divorce process, family court, docket numbering, appearance, demeanor, vocabulary, anything that, you're just so unfamiliar with if you're not in the legal field. We're going to start there. And it's a free course. So, feel free to go over to New York Families for Tomorrow and sign up for that.
Yeah. And I'll send it to my list and I'll just put like New York residents. I'll put that in the subject line. If someone is not a New York resident, can they benefit at all?
They could. Yeah. There's a lot of information about processes. And like I said, it just may be state specific, some things, but definition terms, how you act in a court, how you ask for something, how you should address a judge, how you should dress. That is all universal.
Yeah. And so I like that you have that thing about decorum because, okay, I have the URL right now. I'm all about decorum. So I'm very like, tell it's okay to stand up to the judge, blah, blah, blah. But I think doing it with decorum is so good. And it's good for, obviously it's good for the judge, but it's also good for you. It's good for the parent to have decorum. I mean, I've seen a lot of parents tell me like, well, I can't do that because I don't want to get kicked out of the court but like, you're not going to get kicked out if you're freaking polite about it. If you're respectful.
Right.
I just shared your
thank
URL.
you.
I don't know if it's clickable inside this thing, but I'll put it in the show notes. It doesn't look like it's clickable. Maybe it is. So you have your workshop, and then also, guys, if you guys send like $20, $50 to the nonprofit, that's what helps you do these workshops, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So we have a GoFundMe. It's pinned at our top of our New York Families for Tomorrow Facebook page.
Okay.
Right now we have an ice bucket water challenge going on. So if you go on our page, you'll probably see some videos of some people throwing ice over their heads.
Yeah, I saw that.
But yeah, we're trying to gather some funds because, resources, time, availability, things like that. It's not cheap. And then plus we're coming up on our New York session here is starting. The fall, we start revving up legislative, efforts. We start meeting with political people, government officials, rallies, and all of that, all of our funds go to aiding in travel, material, marketing, things like that. None of us get paid. None of us. We all do it. Yeah, we all do it for free. I paid for the poster behind me, and we all just do it to hopefully get something changed.
Yeah, I just put the link to that in the comments. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if it's clickable, but I'll make sure that that I share it to I'll email my list tonight. Today's Tuesday. So yeah, they'll have like 24 plus hours to, and if they come into the workshop, they should, I think they should donate $20, just to,
yeah.
And these things are so valuable. Like empowering the pro se parent is everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Well, I do also. So I'm kind of a jack of all trades. Elite Paralegal Services is my other business. That's my for-profit business. I'm a paralegal. I have workshops in there too. However, those are a charge. They're a bit more involved. They're a bit more intensive and require, more planning and, commitment to the course. So if anybody wanted to check those out, it's Elite Paralegal Services. That's on
EliteParalegalServices.com.
It's eliteparalegal.net.
Oh, eliteparalegal.net. Okay.
And then I'm on Facebook too.
Yeah. Let's go through the comments here.
Yes, let's do it.
So, too much divisionism, mother's rights or father's rights. Yes. Splitting the movement, and when everybody kind of wants the same thing, we all want to be made whole. Because this thing is, nobody cares about equal rights when they're married. No one's like, oh my God, my husband or my wife has more rights than I do. Let's fix that. Like, no one gives a crap about rights until the divorce happens. So if it's that important, why isn't it important when you're married? It's just my children's rights. I get backlash when I state that. Yeah. And so to the person who said that, someone put a mouse. Oh my God, I am so mad at you. Someone put a mouse emoji in that comment. You're banned. You're banished from Winterfell or wherever I'm from. Actually, this is kind of what's that South Island?
Oh,
where the sand snakes are?
Yeah.
What's that South?
I forgot, but that's where the actor Pedro Pascal was from.
Right.
Prince
What's the name of that place?
Mm-hmm.
It begins with S, right? The desert place. That's where I look like I'm from.
Yes, I can't remember it right now.
It's where Marcella died. That place.
Yeah.
That's gonna drive me nuts. Now I have to go home and watch the whole freaking show. So someone put a mouse emoji. Oh my God! No, look at all the emojis. They put like the warning sign, a mouse running away, a check mark, and then a person running. And I don't know who you are because like with StreamYard, they don't let me see who's making the comments. So you're gonna get it. So someone else says, Eric Carroll says he's for equal parenting, but pushes the father agenda. Some of his commentary is one-sided. Yes, I do agree. I'm all about, like, First Amendment rights, say whatever you want. This is America. So it's an interesting point. Is it bad? So this is just a philosophical question. Is it bad to talk about? Because when I first opened in 2016, I only spoke about mother's needs, and that didn't work out for me. It didn't.
Yeah.
Maybe it's working out for Eric Carroll. Whatever works.
I think what happens is when there's an issue that disproportionately affects a group,
mm-hmm.
That's going to be the center stage. Mm-hmm. That's, when you have a majority, right, that it is being affected. And, the truth of it being is men are disproportionately affected, more than women are in family mm-hmm. law. They get the brunt end of the stick. So I think he tries to bring a lot of attention to that, but in the same time, he always maintains the shared parenting message. That is maintained throughout everything he does.
Yeah, like his memes will talk about father stuff, but at the end of the day, when he's talking to legislators, he went and flipped one of my legislators, Ed Vargas. He came to Hartford and spoke to one of my legislators. Very nice. So, hey, and here's the thing, guys, and this is not to be a jerk. When it's you, when you're up there literally traveling the country to talk to people in power, you could call anybody anything you want. You could mm-hmm. he could do anything he want. He could dress like Littlefinger, yes. and do this if he wants and get away with it. So someone else,
I just think having a vessel for a message is so important. So it's however that message is being transceived is good. It just needs to get out there. We need more awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so someone else says we need to remove judicial immunity and sole discretionary decision making and make equal access and equal parenting a standard, just like it is when you're married. That's a standard when you're married in every state in the United States via promoting family court reform uniformly without bias. Beautiful. So someone says he can be for both. I'm for shared parenting, father's rights and mother's rights. Sometimes we get identified by the cause that brought us here. It takes us a while to get past that. Yes. And many never do. Yeah, absolutely. Someone else says smart parents stay put of family court. Exactly. Lawyers do not want parties to communicate or encourage communication as they don't want mediation. They create high conflict cases intentionally. One thing I really hate about family court is that why does equality require 2 yeses? Like I've always, since day one, I was like, I just want to be an equal parent. That's all I care about. And I wasn't able to get that unless my ex agreed. So if we want Black people to be able to vote, we have to make sure the white people say it's okay. It requires 2 yeses, right?
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, because you have to get compliance and agreement from your oppressor.
That's right.
You have to make sure it's okay first.
Make sure the White Walkers say it's okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So someone says this is a great conversation. The business of conflict is flourishing because there are many willing participants. That's beautiful. Yes. Mm-hmm. What if we stopped the conflict? That would make everybody go belly up. You'll see people running around screaming, like me last week, right?
Yes.
Then the government can offer you services.
Yeah. Then you can get all the free food you want and homes, cell phones and cars.
Oh God. You were right.
I'm a little bitter about the welfare system. So
I actually like the welfare system, but I don't, as long as the parent doesn't give up their freedom to get that welfare. Right. One of my most powerful clients ever. I love this girl to death. Oh my God. I'm gonna have to send you, now I have to send you this live stream because I'm going to talk about you. I'm not going to say her name, but she took her baby in to get WIC, like she had WIC benefits or whatever, single mom, took her baby in and they said they have to weigh the baby. And so she was like, okay, she just wanted her formula so she could go, but she was submitting to these weight checks because that's what she thought she had to do. So she could get her 2 cans of formula. And they weighed the baby and the baby was in like the 15th percentile or whatever. Massive CPS case gets opened. She hired me. Gigantic freaking mess. But this mom stood up and she said, I don't want you guys involved. Stay out of my life. She stood up for herself and she won. She beat them. I was so happy for her.
Oh, good. Thank God.
best freaking clients ever. I was like, can I clone you? So someone says, you're right on the core issues, the mother-father importance, and the I'm on top. No, I'm on top. We need to come to a true understanding. We both have rights if both parents are on the same page, unless one or both parents are needing help. Yeah. And to add to that, we both have rights, even if the other one doesn't agree.
Yeah.
I've been told, like judges have told me that the reason I don't have my son is because I failed to come to an agreement with my ex. So I disagreed with being the oppressed parent.
Right. And I have a quote from a judge, in my fiance's case that literally said, you're more concerned with your rights than you are with being globally involved with your child. That quote, I feel like I'm going to get that tattooed on me someday, because that is just astonishing to me. Astonishing.
And like the only way you could have access to be involved with your child is if you have those rights. Like he's literally trying to get the key to unlock himself out of the prison, and they're saying he cares more about being out of prison than he does about being free, which is the same thing. So someone says, I agree, but that will never happen without an exception for abuse. That person was probably talking about the shared parenting laws.
We already have exceptions for abuse.
Yeah, and all states do. I really think when parents say, no, you can't do that because it'll put abusers with kids, I literally think they're just trying to filibuster reform.
It's such a small percentage. Small percentage.
Let's punish everybody.
Yeah.
Let's give every woman a C-section, for the 5% that need it, or the 20% that need it.
Right.
So someone says, I find it amazing that the default starting point for custody is not maximum and equal time for each parent. That is actually the starting point, because the second both parents walk into court for the first time to get a divorce, they are at that starting point. So parents should be fighting to keep that intact. Unbelievable that that's not the mandatory starting point for judges. So when parents walk into court, they are the most endowed with parental rights than they'll ever be in their whole case. The day you set foot in court, you have the most power, so your objective is to keep that intact and not let anyone take it away. Yep. A lot of parents think that they have no rights and that those rights are given to them by the judge.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the judge gave me equal custody. It's like, really? You didn't have that to begin with?
Yeah.
So someone says, pay attention to the GAL's attorney practice. I did find a GAL who was only practice was in sex crimes and major crimes. Then I find all therapists and ancillary services ordered by the judge as well had a major focus in major crimes, sex crimes and cyber crimes. That led me to understand that the court was aware of more than meets the eye. Geez, isn't that scary? Yeah. The courts and the system have to set the parents up for conflict so they'll keep coming back to court. It feeds the beast. Yes. Mm-hmm. It's like planned obsolescence. Like when Walmart sells you a crappy VCR that dies in 2 years, so you have to buy another one.
Yep.
I just dated myself. I hope people here know what a VCR is.
I was like, VCR? No, I know what a VCR is.
So Summer, this is more your question. Are you familiar with the 28th Amendment? Can either of you speak to that?
I believe, where is that comment?
That was towards the end.
Are they referring to the fact that the United States or like the government is not like in control of our rights? I've had a few people reach out to me about what I call theories in our government that, I don't really address. I'd have to have more of a question. Just asking me if I know what an amendment is kind of filling the educational banking method, and I don't really do that.
Yeah, I don't know if the 28th Amendment is even written. Isn't that kind of like a wild card?
Well, again, I'm going to look it up right now real quick, because now you got me. And if it is what I think it is, then I'm not going to answer that question.
Maybe it's the parent that wrote the mouse emoji. Just let's see.
Oh. Yeah, it looks like someone's trying to write. Yeah, it's government. It's you know, unions, corporations, things like that. Empowers American voters to end escalating influence of big money, dominates our elections. Supposedly, the vast majority of Americans on both sides of the aisle. Offers lasting reform, not dependent on who is elected. Yeah. So it looks like somewhat there. It's a group. American Promise, the 28th Amendment. Imagine a government run by people, not money. I believe our Constitution is perfect the way it is.
Yeah.
I would not change one syllable of our United States Constitution. So, you know, to answer that somewhat question, I don't know what the 28th Amendment is because it doesn't seem to exist and it will never exist.
Yeah, I always thought it was like up for grabs to be claimed by someone who wants to write a new amendment in or something. Interesting though. I believe Ron and Sherry Palmer wrote a book about the 28th Amendment. I never read it, but I think it's like a proposed amendment, you know.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Yep.
So someone else says, unless of course a pro se is empowered and articulate and a judge places a permission to leave on your file. Oh yeah. So, oh gosh, geez. Okay. So we have a thing in Connecticut, and a lot of states probably have this, where they put a leave on your file. So it's when a parent finally gets all this empowerment. Like I'm in this position right now. In my case, I have something called a leave, like a mandatory leave. So I'm not allowed to file motions anymore unless the judge gives me permission to.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of gagged from accessing my own government, you know.
Yeah. No, we have something similar. Some people may and don't mind the term, but we refer to it as malicious litigant.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
Is that accurate? Not necessarily all the time. But you know, we requested that in our last case and he didn't go for it. We requested that to be placed on the other party. And they didn't do it. So it's interesting that they voluntarily do it with some people, and then when it's requested,
right? Well, because
reciprocated.
Because there's no incentive to stop the chaos. But when a parent gets their shit together and says, "Wait a minute, this is illegal," and then that parent starts speaking up and doesn't make it a gender issue, like my ex, blah blah blah. Like I don't care about my ex. Like I never talk about my ex. All of my motions I write to the court are about what the state did to me. Yeah. And so then they put a request for leave on me. Like I summon the attorney general, you know, I mean, you know, so that's when they start putting the request for leave. And they did the same thing to my husband too. So once people start to open their mouth and speak up, then they get the request for leave.
And on the other case, like everything, it's abused, right? I have another case where, you know, this person filed like 55 motions. And it's like, that makes me nervous. Don't do that. You're going to get in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Combine them all. So someone says Eric Carroll needs to interview Kimberly Lowe. I don't know much about her. I think she's running for office. Okay. So someone else says you can never come to an agreement with your ex if they refuse to communicate with you. Yes. Yeah, the ex doesn't show up to mediation and then you lose your child because you can't come to an agreement with them when they're not.
Yes,
they're the ones that,
of course.
So someone says, not one change to the Constitution, yet in every case we should file a motion to enforce to have the judiciary follow it. I know, isn't that funny how you have to ask for them to freaking follow the law?
Yeah. It's all these little steps that are meant to entrap you in the race. And you know, again, that's why I do give credit to attorneys because they know the race, they know the maze, they know how to work it. So I always encourage people to interview attorneys and to find ones, if you can afford one, to find ones that fit you, that will fight for you, that are like-minded. And then if you can't, go pro se and do it yourself because you'll be better off. But you know, the intelligence it takes to navigate this system is impeccable. It really is.
Yeah, I know. It's an art and a science. It's not easy work. I I actually love that kind of work, I like the idea of hiring an attorney like a la carte, like to consult and say, what do you think of this? If I file this, what do you think? And then have the parent do it themselves, but
Yeah, I do a lot of that work too as a paralegal. I do contract work and things like that. So if you want to bounce stuff off me, file things, write up, drafts of any kind, I do a lot of that work too.
Yeah. Well, I kept you for an hour and a half this time. So it's like
we had a lot of catching up to do.
I know. Yeah. So thank God I'm sweating to death in my hiking boots. Ooh, look at everybody. I'm wearing my hiking boots in case a mouse comes after me. Unfortunately, nothing bad has happened. So that means I could keep coming back to my office. But yeah, so I'll be doing another live in 2 weeks, like August 2nd or whatever that day is. And I appreciate you all coming on. In summer, I'm going to be sharing your links to my list. And hopefully we get that workshop filled up. How many spots are left in that workshop?
It's pretty much unlimited because I had to move it to Facebook Live because Zoom, it's a 2-hour course. So buckle in. Awesome. So anybody's welcome, like I said, and just make sure you fill out the Google form that's in the event about. And I'll get the material to you. There's a packet of material too. Awesome. All right, guys. I hope you guys all heard that and you take advantage of this if you're in New York, especially. Anything else you want to share? So should we be taking on the Jon Snow role and uniting the moms and the dads? I think so. I think we have a good shot at it for sure. Yeah, it worked for them and it worked actually it didn't work with the women's suffrage movement. So we see evidence that it works with Game of Thrones and evidence that it doesn't work with the women's suffrage movement. So that's my data. Great. So let's see how this family court stuff plays out. I'm going to be alive for a while, so I'll be Betty White's age, still fighting for all this stuff. So yeah, same here. Yeah, we'll be doing these lives for a long time. Like, hey, summer. All right. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for coming on. All right, thank you. Meet up in 2 weeks. Okay. Bye.